Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got two replays in the British Tier 10 Tech Tree Tank Destroyer, the Badger. If you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the Badger. It is one of the Tech Tree Tier 10 British Tank Destroyers. You can choose this over picking to play something like the FV217B183, which is the Death Star. And it's the normal Tank Destroyer-y version. Because naturally when you get to the Death Star, you have that big 183mm gun. It's a Hesh monster or a big firing AP gun that doesn't really follow what the rest of the line was, which was pretty well armoured tank destroyers that sort of trundle along with fantastic DPM and fantastic guns. So the Badger is basically the same thing, where the armour on this tank is fantastic, except for the lower plate, which is not very good. So, well, it's a bit harsh. The lower plate of the Badger is actually still pretty decent, but for the most part will get penned by most vehicles at Tier 10. The upper hull is absolutely immense, and especially when you use the 10 degrees of gun depression on the Badger, you're just going to farm very, very hard. It's going to be so difficult for people to be able to actually penetrate you. It's fantastic. The only real problem for the Badger is you trundle along to your spot. It takes you a little while to get to that position, and then you go, aha, I'm hull down, I'm going to laugh. And then the big HE guns, like a Type 5 or an AVRE or something like that, just hit you for 600 anyway. And you sit there going, oh, well, my big strength is my hull armour or my upper structure armour, but it's been negated. But then it does have the big other strength, and that is this 123mm gun, which has some of the best DPM in the game. It is utterly phenomenal, and it just shreds so quickly, and this gun is absolutely fabulous. So even though you do trundle into position, once you get into that position to start farming, this tank can farm so hard. It is wonderful for it, and it'll hit pinpoint shots very easily. Now, after 6.0, it did lose that little bit of shine in the fact that the gun was stupidly accurate, because, well, a lot of other guns just became stupidly accurate, but it's still a gun that hits pinpoint shots. So with the Badger, you have a 30km/h top speed, with a 12km/h reverse speed, 950 horsepower engine, is 14.62 horsepower per ton ratio, which, like I say, means this tank does tend to trundle into position, and it doesn't get anywhere very quickly, which is a bit of pain for the Badger for sure. You've got a 20% internal fire chance, which is on the high end of fire chances, and generally, just like a Conqueror, if you get shot in the back end of Mr. Badger towards where that engine bay is, because it is the hull of a Conqueror, you will end up getting set on fire, which can be super frustrating. You've got 23.98 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed, which is pretty slow. Again, the tracks turn very slowly, so you want to help that with clutch braking. And your terrain resistances are really not very good, so it does mean that you could help it out with some of the crew skills. Because you've got 2.39 on soft, 1.38 on medium, and 1.29 on firm. Those terrain resistances are really not very good, and they make this tank feel very sluggish when it's trying to get up to its top speed, especially since it doesn't have the best power to weight in the universe at 14.62. It's not terrible by any means, but it's just not great. You've got 262 meters of on-the-move concealment, which is absolutely fantastic, and that helps you stay unspotted in easy situations like you've just seen me firing at that Leopard. 277 meters of on-the-move concealment as well means that you can stay concealed while on the move fairly easily too, helping you get position and not give away your position too early before you start farming. 499 meters of view range is fantastic again. It means you can spot for yourself very easily in this tank, and especially with having the fantastic camouflage as well, it helps you to spot things at greater distances and stay unspotted for longer. You've got 0.21 accuracy during rotation, which is absolutely immense, especially for a TD. But you've got a 1.61 accuracy during movement, which again, actually, for a TD in general, is really not very bad at all. And that means this gun is ready to go pretty quickly. As you see, the aim circle isn't that big, and since you have a 1.57 second aim time, you aim in supremely quickly, and you're ready to get this DPM absolutely flowing on the Badger very quickly. You got 0.24 accuracy at 100 meters as well, which means this gun is superbly accurate, and like I say, it does tend to hit most of the shots you want to try and hit, except for when, you know, RNG still says, absolutely not, I'm just going to miss for the lols. 10 degrees of gun depression, like I say, exceptionally flexible on a ridgeline, the Badger, which is one of its key strengths. Go hull down, cover the lower plate, you'll bounce most shots you go against. You've got a 6.2 second reload, which is 4,646 DPM. That is immense DPM at tier 10. That is absolutely incredible. And I'll say, you do not want to cross a Badger when it gets in front of you, because it will farm all of your hit points very, very quickly, and it's surprisingly fast with how fast your health will vanish. 272 pen on the standard AP with 1,000 meters a second is fantastic in terms of the AP pen, and the velocity is bang on the average mark, which means you do have to give a fair bit of lead to hit the shots. But you got 330 penetration on the premium APDS rounds, which is fantastic again, meaning that you will pen pretty much every vehicle you're going to face with either of the two rounds. And you got 1,250 meters a second shell velocity on that premium APDS round, which means the velocity is very, very nice. And again, it actually helps the gun handling to feel that little bit better if you do switch to the APDS, just purely because of the shell velocity. 480 alpha on this 123mm gun as well is pretty nice for it once again. It's not quite the 500 alpha, but still 480 is great, especially since you have that 4.6, nearly 4.7k DPM, which is just utterly insane, realistically. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment to get those kinds of statistics on the old Badger? Well, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Track Mechanics, Steady Aim, Camouflage Expertise, Silent Driving, Clutch Braking, with the Advanced Loader, the Camouflage Net, and Optics. Optics be able to get the 499 meters of view range, so I can spot for myself very, very easily, and truly not get out-spotted by the opposition either. We run the Camo Net to get that camo down to the 262 meters of still concealment, same as running the Camouflage Expertise, with the Silent Driving to get that camo during movement down as low as possible so that I can sneak into position that little bit easier with the Badger. Clutch Braking to make that track traverse better, because the track traverse is poo if you don't help it, so just running that clutch braking can help it get up to that 23.98 degrees a second, and it's a lot nicer in general. And the Steady Aim to make the accuracy of the gun that little bit better, as it's always nice to be able to make your gun 10% more accurate. But like I say, there's plenty of ways you could change that crew up. You could run off-road driving for sure, because the ground resistances are so poor in the Badger. You could run armor angling as well, just to reduce the amount of damage coming into the tank. It's really down to you and how you want to play the vehicle. So as you saw with that first game, we finished with 3 kills, 6.1k damage, 307 assistance damage, the first class with the high caliber, 1446 base XP. A really nice game there for the Badger on Fisherman's Bay. You also saw me use the HE rounds, by the way, which I did forget to mention against that Griller. 130 pen on the Hesh rounds, 130 pen, which you can use against a lot of targets, and those have 620 alpha, which means your DPM is skyrocketing the moment you use those Hesh rounds. If you get up behind people, you can quite easily pen them with Hesh. You get against any of the lightly armoured vehicles, 130 pen will go through a lot of vehicles, so use those Hesh rounds wisely as well. So we're on to the second replay, and the second replay we're here on this map, which is Arctic Region. And on Arctic Region, what I want to try and do is either push the corner at C2, where I can try and shoot people as they come up the 2 line. I can sort of cover my lower plate there, and only really give them my upper section while trying to pen them. What I'll say here is, don't text and drive, kids, because otherwise you end up crashing into bunkers. Yeah, that's what we're going to go with. But yeah, if I can push that position at C2 and go in the little dip, that would be great. The only downside to trying that in the Badger is that we go at 30 kilometers an hour, which means we are very, very slow. They get to that corner at C2 very, very quickly, which could be a bit awkward for us, because if we try and go down here, we're going to quite easily get spotted. But we see the E4. Mr. E4 is going to push aggressively, and you know what? He thought better of it. I'm definitely pushing aggressively, because I don't want to be back here where these 2 heavy tanks are. I want to be in that dip that I was talking about, where I can make the most of the Badger's armor. Now, I do have to be careful when I'm trying to attack them, though, on this corner, because it is very easy to overexpose the lower plate and make it easy for the enemy team to be able to get the shots in. So we can't quite find any shots at the IS Desmond Tutu. We couldn't find a shot at the E4. But now we've got to the position that I actually want to be in. This is where we can use the 10 degrees of gun depression and just try and use the phenomenal gun handling, the phenomenal DPM, and the great penetration to just chunk our way through these guys. So we see the E4. He fires on the move. Doesn't get us. We track him and pen him. Going for that drive wheel again. He's burnt the repair kit. He's burnt it, people, which means that we have that fantastic DPM. But, oh, he's definitely got track mechanic because he can just get his tracks back on before we get our shell loaded. A lot of tanks can be perma-tracked by this Badger, and that's the difference between the Badger with the 480 alpha and the Tortoise with the 400 alpha, because the Tortoise has DPM that is similar enough to the Badger, but because it has 400 alpha, it has an even better reload speed, which means that it can perma-track pretty much everything, even if it's got track mechanic. The Badger, if a tank has track mechanic, like that E4 clearly did, can't do that, and you saw that in action there. So we put a blind shot out towards where someone could be at G1. Didn't hit anything, so I decided, okay, you know what? I'm pushing forward. Thankfully, didn't get spotted as we push this little section here, because now I can just poke up in a hull down location and start trying to be able to farm people like this 260. So I'm trying to maneuver myself into a better position on the ridgeline where it's easier for me to come over. Hello, Mr. Indian Panzer. Put a shot through him. We've got an AT-15 in front of us as well as the 260. And in fact, there was a tank on our right. It was a KTTS, but we just missed the mark. So we go for the cupola shot on the AT-15, trying to make sure I'm not overexposing my side for the KTTS to get an easy shot in. In fact, the KTTS did manage to get a shot in, but I was kind of hoping with me poking over that we actually spot him up and he'd start taking hits. That fabulously accurate gun, yeah, missing shots like that on Mr. AT-15. The 260 is still hoping I'll try and poke up a little bit more, but we ricochet off the cupola of the AT-15. AT-15 armor strong. Best armor in game, yes? No, get out the game, thank you. Should have been over 2 shots ago, but there we go. We shut down the British Tier 8 Tech Tree tank destroyer. KTTS on my right gets destroyed, so I'm not too worried about that guy anymore. The Object 260 has switched to HE, which is the right thing to do for that man, because he is not penning me in that situation. And he ends up splashing us, taking us off, you know, just, what, 230 damage, something like that with the HE? Something in that region, anyway, which is pretty decent for him. We're up to 2.7k assistance with 3.7k damage, and that's because we were spotting the guys down the 2 line as well as the KTTS, so we managed to get a fair bit of that. We get a tracking shot into the 113. That didn't track and pen? Okay, sure. He, again, either uses a repair kit or has track mechanics, so he gets his tracks back on. We put a shot through his upper plate because at this elevation, I can shoot through the upper plate. And there we go. There's the tracking and penning shot that I wanted. But because he was on the cliff face, he manages to slide into a position where I can't perma-track him. Which is, yeah, it's a sad, sad time, but yeah, it is what it is. Straight through the upper plate again of the 113 because the angle of his upper plate has been completely negated by the elevation, putting him down to a 1-shot. The 30B is coming over to try and get a shot in, so we put a shot through his side. He pens us with heat rounds because, well, his APCR would go through our lower plate, but there's still a chance it could bounce, whereas heat, well, will go through every single time. We're up to 6,042 damage with 2.7k assists. I decide, okay, I'm not going to push the 4 line yet. I'm going to go after the medium tank that is spotted at G2. Why? Because I don't want to go underneath the gun line of the 30B. He might have easy shots into my roof deck, which I just don't want. And also, to add to that, it might be a case of if there's someone at G4, they can quite easily farm me as I crest up as well. Now, I make a big mistake there, and that is Mr. Ruthless manages to get a big Hesh shell into our side, which doesn't pen us, thankfully, but does put us down to a 1-shot for a lot of vehicles in this game. And that's because I was too preoccupied with how the hell did that Leopard pen me? So when I was coming back round to look at the Leopard in the 260, I just hadn't noticed, and I wasn't aware enough that the Ruthless was there. And so that was a big mistake. That could have ended very, very badly. So we're probably a bit lucky to be alive. But you take the rough with the smooth in this game. 9 times out of 10, you won't get lucky in that moment, and he would have just deleted us. So we'll take the fact that he didn't manage to delete us. We're up to 6.5k damage with 2.7k assistance. And instead of attacking that 260, I'm now going to push round this way. Because they had tanks going up the 9-0, like the TD that gets spotted at F9. And the tank that was at G3 has just been destroyed. So what I want to do is try and get myself into a position where I can either get up behind the 2 tanks that are at F9 or cut off their escape if they do decide to try and escape that way. So the Jagdpanzer E100 is quite clearly leaving his safety position. I might be able to get a cheeky shot over the ledge, which we get straight through. Got the APCR loaded to make sure that that was definitely going to go into the Jagdpanzer E100. But it's not just the penetration that I was going for. A lot of that was me wanting shell velocity so that we could give as little lead as possible and make sure that that shell was going to hit. But with the Charioteer getting shut down by the T-58 Heavy, there's only one tank left alive. It is the Manticore, which was up with that Jagdpanzer E100. He is at one shot for me, since he has 415 hit points. I have 480 alpha. So we're just going to wait in ambush for him. But just as we lead the shot, we don't give it enough. We did not give it enough lead there. That was a poor shot. We had to lead it a little bit more, and we'd have had that Manticore there. But sadly, we missed it, and so we didn't pick up the kill. But he's being cheeky, trying to see if he could keep poking over, keep us lit, and trying to see if he maybe could bait us into a shot, and then he'd be able to finish us off with a shot in the lower plate. But we're just going to keep closing the distance, and I'm fully expecting this guy's left. But with the CS-59 being on the left, he's fully definitely run away to the right. Now, there's things that most people don't know is you can actually go on the ice. You can go on this ice on my right-hand side, but you have to be incredibly careful, because if someone shoots this ice, you will end up drowning. Straight up, you'll end up drowning. But you can use it to traverse towards where this Manticore is. You just have to be extremely careful. That's what we did. We come over, aim at the Manticore, finish him off. And by the way, that is how good the camo is on the Badger. That guy did not see us, and we managed to finish him off. We finished with the 5 kills, the 7.2k damage, 2.7k assistance, ace tank of the steel wall, the high caliber, with the 1908 base XP. A really nice game there for the FV217 Badger, which is a pretty damn solid tank destroyer. The only problem is it's very slow to turn, it's very slow to get to position, and the trundling can be a bit of a pain, especially when a lot of HE guns just say, absolutely not, I laugh at you. But there we go. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!